with us
Squiggly.
Bob Buckley,
And then,
who is
see?
the president of
If you want to do a parallel,
Westchester
that's
County Correctional Superior Officers Association. And I think that we have with us someone who not only is completely updated on Wisconsin, but somebody who's been an outstanding spokesperson for public sector unions. I think that every one of us should memorize every word of an op-ed piece that Bob did in the Journal News, and he has been organizing the county unions to meet and to keep up the pressure on the county. And so we have with us somebody with a solid political background and knowledge of the events in Wisconsin. So I will turn it over first to Bob Buckley.
And Ann, thank you for inviting me. And Ann's a little humble. She's working hard all the time. We have a coalitions of all the different unions throughout the county. Ann is an integral part of it. She brings a lot of knowledge there. She comes here with her years of experience, and she's very helpful. So it's not just Bob Buckley, it's all the union presidents that come together. We meet, we discuss issues, and we kind of decide how we're going to counter some of the issues that are going on right now in the county with the county executive and with the state budget. So it was nice that Ann kind of gave me all the kudos, but it's really all of us doing it. Ann had asked me to speak about Wisconsin, and I'm going to do that, and it should take me about 10 or 15 minutes, but I'm going to kind of be all over the place, because to be quite honest with you, to really speak about these issues, you'd almost need a semester with your kids, because they're so integral that you couldn't imagine. I'm going to touch on the surface on a lot of the issues, and you'll get a grasp of what I'm talking about. But I want to be real clear about one thing. It's really not about private sector unions right now. The war and the battle that we are fighting is public sector employees. And everybody thinks it's just the Republicans. For the most part, in many of the states, it is. The Democrats in Wisconsin are doing a great job standing up and supporting the unions' right to collective bargaining. And I'll explain that a little more. But right here in our hometown, in Westchester County in New York State, you know, we have a lot of Democrats who are starting to act like conservatives, believe it or not. I'm not going to start calling names right now, but we're not only fighting battles with the Republicans and the conservatives. Some of our Democratic friends, believe it or not, are somewhat starting to act like conservatives. Mayor Bloomberg said yesterday, to his credit, he said the unions have a right to collective bargaining. I would not take that away from them. He went on also to say how we would like to change some laws, unfortunately, that would hurt the public sector unions. Andrew Cuomo kind of said the same thing, that unions have a right to collective bargaining, but I have. One of the biggest issues, I think, is in the media. If we take our information from the media, we end up getting all kinds of convoluted facts, whether it's a right-wing newspaper, a left-wing, or if you're watching Fox News or MSNBC. You really don't know what's going on, unfortunately. The Wisconsin Democrats in the Senate, and I spoke to some of them about the issues over there. I spoke to the unions in Wisconsin, but just want to touch base on New York for a couple of minutes. Let's blame the public sector employees game. And like I said, it's not really just the Republicans. It's really a lot of our elected officials' friends. And when you see them, you need to ask them specifically where they stand on public sector, because it's really becoming a big issue. The issue we're dealing with in New York State right now is a lot of our friends, and I say friends because over the years they have been our friends, and some of them now are going to the other side, unfortunately. The Tri-Borough Amendment is one of the biggest issues in New York State that we're going to be facing in the next couple of years. And there's a lot of talk in Albany. Assemblyman Castelli is one of the biggest guys now trying to push this through the Assembly. Now, I'm being told by everybody in Albany this will never happen, but they're all throwing it on the table. And the Tribal Amendment, I'm sure you're all familiar with it, basically says if your contract expires, the terms of your contract continue. Obviously, your salary obviously is the same. You no longer get no more raises, but the integrity of your collective bargaining agreement stays intact until your next contract is negotiated. That works out great for the unions, and it also works out good for management. They never want to give credit to the management portion that it works good for them. They want to do away with the tribal amendments on people, but they don't want to do away with our right to strike. So You know, you can't have it both ways. So I've been going to Albany a lot of the other union leaders, and educating them on the tribal amendment. They really have it wrong. They think when when our contract ends, we just continue to get raises. We simply just continue to have a collective bargaining agreement that gives us the ability to work, you know, with decent rules and regulations that we have to adhere to, and the administration has to adhere to the union rules. It's fair, it's been working for years, but some think that's the biggest problem with public sector employees. We all know that's not the case. So we'll be fighting that in Albany. The next thing going on up in Albany right now is a lot of the elected officials want to introduce a New York State Constitution Convention where they go in, they open up the convention, the Constitution, and they want to review it. They're supposed to do it every 20 years. But if you're going to do it in between 20 years, you have to go to a referendum of the people. They vote on it, and if it happens, then they have a right to set up a committee, opens up the New York State Constitution, and they can go in it, and they basically can tack anything in the Constitution. And for us, I believe it's Article 7, the biggest fear for us is, now, whether they can or cannot, we don't know, but it says our pensions are guaranteed once we retire for life. Now that's in the Constitution. Now if they open up the Constitution, they could go into a number of things. But our biggest concern, obviously, is the pension. If you speak to lawyers, you speak to politicians, they say, we can't touch that. But you know what? The teachers union, the last time they tried to do that in the 90s, put up a tremendous fight, and it got voted down, fortunately. And I hope we don't have to get to the situation where we're once again fighting a referendum of the people as to whether there's going to be a constitutional convention in New York State. So when you hear about that, you know, just know there's a few things in there that directly impact the unions, and it could be very adverse to us as public sector employees. So that's another fight we're potentially dealing with. A Tier 6 is being talked about. Not only is it being talked about, it's going to happen this year. It's going to be introduced. Doesn't mean it's going to pass. They want to go to a 401k type of Tier 6 system, and I guess it would be a combination of the state and a 401k. But to Tom DiNapoli's credit, Tom DiNapoli said, I have it right here in the paper, that's why I said this is so fluid, every day it changes. So I came here, I'm like, I'm on the news, I'm on the computer, because it changes so quickly from day to day. I want to make sure I'm giving you, up-to-date information. So Tom DiNapoli said yesterday, New York State Controller Tom DiNapoli defends the current New York State retirement system and states that our pensions in New York State are fully funded, and if we go to a 401k type pension system, that would benefit the bankers, not the employees. Now remember that, what I said there, because I'm going to get into that. It's going to benefit the bankers. A lot of this is I'm going to prove to you today that a lot of this is about taking care of big business and right-wing conservative groups who are really trying to look out for themselves. And I say they're trying to rape the government of its money, and while they're trying to suppress the middle class. And I'll talk a little more about it, but it's quite interesting when you start hearing some facts about what's going on. So, and I said, how does the media play in this? It's kind of crazy because people that listen to the media think the media is all about facts. Now this is today's paper. So we got today's paper. Unions rally at the Capitol. They said, they made some nice quotes in there about different people. Tom Libis, who's a pretty decent guy, he's from the Binghamton area, he told the crowd he backs the union's right to negotiate. I'm a Republican, and I think collective bargaining is a good thing, he said. It's worked very effectively in the state, and it's going to work for a long time in the state. And that's a good thing, because he's the deputy majority leader in the New York State Senate, which is obviously run by the Republicans now. I believe in checks and balances. I like the fact that the Republicans are controlling the Senate, the Democrats are controlling the Assembly, Cuomo's the governor,